What's going on, y'all? What's going on, y'all? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? We are here to have a good time. Here to have a good time. What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? What's going on? The family here at Twitch. And if you are here on YouTube too, you know, we love you guys. But if you want the full experience, you definitely got to come pull up on Twitch, man. Definitely got to do that. Who's here today? Who's here? Oh man, I see Dash City GG is coming out the gates hot. Talking about we better bring that fire. Come on, man. That's all we do. Who else is here? I'm peeping. Okay. I see Get You a Res in there in the background. What's going on? You don't have to, I know you don't, we see you, but you don't necessarily think that we see you, but we see that you're out there. So what's going on? Talk to us nice. What's happening? Oh, you guys look, see that I got like secret snacks over here. I gotta hide that stuff from y'all. I can't have none of that. All right, Dash City. How's it going for you this week so far? How's it going? Yeah, man. So this week we're gonna take a different turn this week. This is gonna be more of an open dialogue that we're gonna have. This is one of those situations that the topics that we're gonna talk about today are the sole thoughts of me and me alone. And I'm gonna give some hot takes. There's gonna be some nice healthy conversation, right? But of course, I'm not here by myself. I can't do this all alone. I got the main man, the maestro. I got my man Tony in the back. What's going on, Tony?
Yo, how's everybody doing today?
Tony's back here. Tony doesn't realize what he's kind of set us out to do today. We kind of talking about, hey, let's kind of really kind of have a conversation within this space. So to be honest, if anything goes wrong today, not in terms of like the production, because this is gonna be crystal clear clarity. You got the cameras here, we got the the mics here. Of course, it's gonna be super solid. I know you guys can see. I'm super paranoid about my mic. Make sure my mic is secure. I'll make sure it is secure, right? And but anything sound out of pocket or just out of control, man, it's Tony's fault. Hashtag blame Tony. All right. But we can't really get started, and we have to kind of bring you in the right way. So here you guys, let's get started. What's up? Man, I really love that intro.
Yeah, it's fire.
I really love that intro. Get some of that music under us. I don't know about you guys, but I don't really like the awkward silence that that streaming kind of gives you. So your music selection is no one else other than the Pizzle Pack, by T-Pain himself. I'm hearing a little bit of buzz in our background here. So what I want to do, guys, give me a second. Let's go check this out, and we'll be right back. that sound? Are we a little bit better now? All right. So again, if it's your first time here on stream, my name is EA Green. I'm the CEO and owner of the Open Media Agency, the full service marketing agency focusing on virtual events, micro content, and lead generation. And today what we are going to be talking about is that we're going to be talking about the biggest mistakes that small businesses make during marketing. And it's just one of those situations that you may hear it often. You might hear it come up, quite a bit. But to be honest, you gotta let people know. You gotta remind them that this ain't a game. You want to be out here. You want to be out here and having, basically putting your name, your reputation on the line in order to essentially do good business. So you got to do good business, right? And the thing is, there's more than just sales. There's more than just marketing alone, but we're just going to talk about one particular piece about that whole equation. And to be honest, I am willing to kind of go on a limb here and say that we're kind of experts in that space because we are a small business. And we have been, it's not easy. We've been learning along the way of how to kind of get this stuff done. But, we definitely want to kind of shed some light more on the marketing side of what are some of those things that we see people do all the time. And then essentially what we can do to kind of combat these things. So just to kind of set the scene, Tony, do you mind letting the people know? All right, Tony's giving me a couple seconds. What I want to do is I want Tony to definitely be able to kind of shed some more light on why he felt like this was one of those conversations that we needed to have today. Because I'm with it. Anything marketing, anything about business, let's really kind of have, a really serious conversation. All right. How we doing over there? All right, guys, I really appreciate y'all. We're gonna give you one more second, so we can get this situated. All right. All right, we're back again. I think we got it. I think we're in a better place now. I like it. How are we now? How about now? I swear, we know what we're doing. Think we're good? All right, chat, talk to me. Do you guys hear any buzzing? Can you guys hear me clearly? Yeah, I really like this music. T-Pain got something on his hands here. Hey. So, guys, you may, for those who are following us and stuff like that, you may have seen yesterday that we had the now open what Club Legend, session where he comes in every single Tuesday just to kind of really kind of give, us exactly what we need, right? To kind of, get the everything kind of popping, get everything situated for us. Super dope, man. Right, he just really kind of outdoes himself every single time. So, apologize to you guys about this light buzz that you guys might be hearing. I think we might have to just power through this one. Come again? Yeah, we're going to get this going. All right, so I'm going to bring in Tony. What's up, Tony?
What up, what up?
All right, so can you let the people know why you felt like we needed to have this conversation today? Like, what kind of moves you to say, hey, this is something that we really need to kind of get into?
So lately, I've been kind of seeing people think they know what they should be doing. So, well, as far as a business,
Okay.
so there are a lot of small brands and businesses who are focused on a lot of the wrong things.
Okay.
And I get how, of course, starting a business, starting a brand, there's a lot of things you're thinking ahead about, but a lot of people just don't know where to start when it comes to marketing and how they should go about building their brand or business.
Got it.
So I kind of just wanted to talk about this to kind of drop some free game for whoever may be listening and want to build a brand or business, or just whoever needs help or guidance.
Got you. Okay, so I know we kind of did some research on this. We wanted to be a little bit more informed, right? We wanted to be able to provide a little bit more context, kind of get an outside opinion of our own. So let's bring in this article that we found. All right. So looking at eggmarketingpr.com, right? They have essentially an article or a blog talks about the 10 reasons your small business marketing sucks. I feel like they came out a little hot on that one, right? But essentially, they discuss different 10 things and stuff like that. But I, kind of necessarily go through every single one. But let's kind of go through some of the big ones. All right, we're gonna go through that as a team here. All right. So one of the first things they kind of mentioned is that you don't have a marketing budget, and I feel like I want to call that out because it is number one, right? But I guess what I want to do is I want to save that one for last because that one holds a special place right here in the heart. Because, man, I tell you, that's one of the biggest hills that you have to climb in order to try to, kind of get over that and in order to be able to kind of fight through this thing. And, it's one of those situations that I feel like, given how things are going, today in terms of COVID and, the economy and things of that nature, like I want to make sure that I'm sensitive to that. But like we have to come to a common ground, if that makes sense. All right, so the next one is basically businesses do not have a marketing plan. Right, so essentially in that particular case, I kind of look at it as like a yes and a no. Right, so I'll just make sure you guys can see this on the screen here. All right, is that when it comes to marketing for a small business, I honestly believe that small businesses go into business to sell whatever they're selling. I know that sounds very hyper simplified, but I honestly believe that if you I'm picking on Tony here because he's right in front of me, right? So Tony like picked up a camera, right? So say if Tony is, he wants to be a photographer, or do videos and things of that nature. Like, he's not going into business so that he can run all the departments himself. Like, he's actually in business so that he can essentially do what he likes to do, but get paid for it. And it's one of those situations that unless you have like a special knack and essentially, that stuff really kind of sits out for you and things of that nature, like, there's really kind of nothing. You kind of are at the mercy of essentially like how are you going to get that word out there, right? So, for the most part, I feel like what people tend to do, especially with social media, they tend to just kind of like pummel their following with all these different things to say, hey, like, come follow me or help me support my business, so on and so forth. And I feel like that's one of the kind of proven to me, like my own hypothesis over time. It's one of the biggest mistakes I'm noticing that people are doing, right? And the reason why, because I have this idea of the fact of, imagine if you're on a beach, right? For those who have been on beaches and stuff like that, imagine you're on a beach and you want to build a sand castle. When you build that sand castle, you don't necessarily grab all the sand that's directly like what you're directly standing on, right? You ultimately kind of reach out past where you want to build your sand castle, and you bring the sand closer into you so you can then build that sand castle. And I look at that as the same exact way when it comes to your marketing, right? And sand being people, being potential customers, potential clients, and things of that nature. You have to make sure that you can bring them in, right? So outside of your immediate circle, so that you can essentially build a business. And then when I'm sorry, one more time. Okay, all right, let's go full screen for a second. All right. So one of those situations that I kind of look at it is that, when you are in that space and you need to essentially kind of like develop that plan of how you're going to market to people, you kind of have to like look outside of your immediate circle. So one of the biggest things is like, when you know that you're going out as a small business to get more clients and more customers, like, you have to understand where your audience is. And one of those bigger things is saying that the people who are within your immediate circle are not your ideal customer. They might be one of your first customers because you know them and they're out to, they support you just because they bang with you. But other than that, like, and that might not be the case. So, that's one of like, essentially like the really big things that I really kind of look at when it comes to that marketing plan, right? And the next piece that I kind of look at is that once you understand your audience, right, is essentially like in terms of your messaging. And a lot of people do not understand the idea of, what should their messaging be, rather than trying to say, hey, I have a product or I have a service and it's just good and you should buy. And I just feel like that's one of the biggest pitfalls that we see, time and time again, right? Because you don't understand who your audience is and who you're going after. So you don't have messaging that then you can modify or alter or to curate towards that specific audience. And that's one of the biggest, like the most, like the biggest things that we kind of see as like one of those huge issues. Right. And then the next one that I'm seeing here on this article is one that goes by, you're only using one or two channels of advertising. So with this one, I am a little, how would you say? I guess I'm a little torn on this one, Tony.
I agree.
Because this feeds into what we do in terms of micro content, right? To be able to take that 1 hour that you might use, to make content, and to be able to make it into as many pieces as possibly can, so you can then push, right? But if you essentially try to do, if you try to do like say if you have like 20 pieces of content that you make per week, if you are trying to push every single piece to every single platform, I don't think it would be as effective as if you were to focus on one particular platform and then make sure that you throw things out that are more catered to that specific platform. And I just think that's one of the biggest things that I will kind of argue on when it comes to that to the specific specific piece. So, Tony, what do you think about that so far?
So, yeah, I definitely don't feel like you should be trying to focus on just one single platform, or nor do I believe that you should be trying to put everything on everything. So I guess you just kind of like going back to what you said as far as audience. You do want to know where your audience is living at, and those are the platforms you want to hit. So it's not necessarily about the number of platforms, but rather where your audience is at the time.
Okay, so coming so far, right, when we kind of talked about, particularly small businesses not having a marketing plan, right? And then also, choosing, what do you think about that other piece about not having a marketing plan? What are some things that you've seen in the past?
Well, me personally, I know when I started, I was kind of just more so focused on getting the business going. So personally, like I said, I wasn't necessarily. I didn't have a plan. I'll just be honest with that.
So how did you decide how are you gonna get the word out?
How was I gonna get the word out?
Yeah.
So, word of mouth was probably my strongest thing. Like around Winston, I probably built a huge word of mouth, but at the same time, it was like people couldn't find me if they wanted to look for me. Right. But then that's kind of when I learned going back to that, I need to be on the platforms where my audience is at.
Got you. Okay, so I want to work through like a small checklist, right? Of almost like what are some of the pieces that every business should have at the bare minimum. All right, and then you can tie in and say if you believe if you hold it true or not.
Right.
All right. So in today's world, right? Let's say you are selling a product, right? And I don't know. Let's say a boutique, say clothes, right? You're drop shipping, things of that nature. Do you think that it is mandatory that they have an Instagram? Clothes.
Yeah, definitely.
If you would ask me this question last year, I would say yes. But knowing some of the other platforms that are now out there, I don't know. So I'm talking. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
With it? What platforms are you thinking?
I think TikTok is a small beast, man.
Yeah.
I think depending on what what it is, right? Depending on what you're trying to sell. So let's say if it's just like sayings on a T-shirt or something of that nature, I think you could do well on say like a TikTok, but that would be something I would say, hey, yeah, you need an Instagram for it. Right. But if you are saying like it's high end or something of that nature, I don't know if I would ever touch TikTok on a high end brand. That's not to say that some won't, but it just doesn't. It seems too young of a platform, like where that would take place, right? So think about it, like this is where the Amazon, those the TikTok leggings, kind of took off on, right? So it's proven itself, right? Because there's a hook, right? There's that piece that's like, hey, like this is why you like it so much, right? So I can't imagine like a Gucci saying, hey, or if if the advertising platform on TikTok is so well, I can't imagine them then saying, hey, like we're gonna find people who make X amount of dollars on this platform in order to actually kind of do that and then sell.
So that does kind of go back into audience. So I guess if you're in the chat watching right now, let us know if y'all are TikTok fans and what y'all think about marketing a business on TikTok.
Yeah, what platforms do you find that you think are necessary in order for you to to sell or to advertise or to kind of build your audience? Let us know what you guys think.
So while they're doing that, I do want to kind of go into like, for me, I'm a visual person, so Instagram I feel like is my platform. Like,
Yes.
I feel like I can creatively push the space on Instagram as long as I, do the work for it.
Right.
But I just feel like it has always had a potential to grow. I feel like it still does, even with them introducing reels.
Okay.
So I feel like they're always kind of pushing the bar, and I think that's like why Instagram is my.
We're gonna keep the word pushing the bar,
Yeah.
but we all know what that truly means.
Yeah.
Control
So
C, Control V.
Definitely. So they copy, paste, push it a little bit more,
Right.
until somebody else comes out with something else and they copy that.
Right.
Yeah.
Listen, man. If it wasn't made on, if it's not on the keyboard, why would they put it out there? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So it's a function there for a reason. It's necessary. All right. Yeah. So I feel like for me in the beginning, I feel like Twitter was my main piece, right? Because I just love the idea of how raw and how like in the moment it was, right? I was on Twitter during the dark times, during the 08, 09 era. That's those are dark times on Twitter. That's when things were a little wild, within that space, right? But I feel like over time, again, you kind of had to put yourself where you feel comfortable in terms of where it feels authentic to you, but also where your audience, may lie, right? And, next to Facebook, I feel like it's safe to say that they probably have some of the, highest like daily user rates and stuff like that. And their advertising platform or the portion of it is so robust compared to others because they have probably hundreds or thousands of data points that they touch upon, if not millions of data points that they touch upon, that they can essentially, kind of build you on the platform in zeros and ones. All right. And that's just something that, you just really can't, you really can't overlook. All right. So what I want to do is going to go back to this article here. All right. So the next piece, right? I feel like this is kind of shady. I feel like this is kind of towards to me. All right. So the next one is that you are the owner and the marketer, the accountant and the manager. All right. So most definitely, I feel like that is probably one of the biggest pitfalls, and I can probably say even because of myself, right? Because I'm on a team of it's a team of 6 of us, and essentially I've realized like over time that I have to put myself in a space where I can do my best work, right? And my best work is actually being able to speak with people, to essentially develop business, to kind of have an understanding of where, identifying some key opportunities, and then how we can then fit within that space. And I've practiced it for years, with project management and my finance background and things of that nature. It's a ton that I've learned over the time, and it's one of those situations that I kind of got so used to it. But I got so used to being the solopreneur within our space that basically I kind of forgot it, right? And I realized like, hey, now we got businesses, we got clients that are coming in and things that we've developed over time, right? I realized that, hey, like we are not getting the constant flow of incoming traffic the way that we should. And I realized it was because I was still trying to do everything. And I think, shout out to my man Jeff, Hefe, the sales manager, he told me something, he brought up to my attention. It was like, hey, look, as the leader, as the CEO, as the number one, like you have to decide what are the 3 things that you're going to focus on, right? So that you can essentially put yourself in the best position possible to actually help build the business, right? Because if you're going to, if you want to be the one to actually, develop and to be in the creative side all the time, then maybe, that kind of turns into like, hey, if you want to add somebody to the team, you might need to find somebody who's going to be focusing on, those sole portions. And that's definitely something that I've learned, over time. And I'm kind of like, hey, like, is, I feel like that's super crucial. And, it's something that I can never kind of look down upon. What else? So, Tony, what can you talk to me about in terms of when you started off with with your company and you started off with photography and things of that nature? Like, did you find yourself having that trouble balancing like being the creator and being the owner?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I've always been in the mental space of I just want to create.
Right.
So no matter what I had to do to get it done, I just wanted to create. So I know for me starting off, I had a lot of problems with pricing and marketing and just posting.
Right.
So I did the work. Like that wasn't a problem. I was getting word of mouth. That was easy. But when it came to like going outside of like just those people and like trying to find people like where everybody was at, I saw myself struggling on that end. So it took me a while to get there, but it's kind of one of those things where when you're starting your business and it is you are focusing on all the areas. So you kind of have to put yourself in every position, and time management was huge for me because I had to split up like, okay, these hours I would be doing this, these hours I would be doing this, and like I just realized that like it's not all creative work.
Got you. Yeah, man. So, I mean, I definitely feel like that's one of the biggest pitfalls, and that's something that is something that needs to be learned over time. Because remember, when I mentioned in the beginning that you're in business to do what you wanted to sell, right? Because it was clear, like you don't say, hey, I just want to do business, like I do business, like that's just not a thing, right? You might, there's something that you kind of like focused on in particular that might have some sort of kind of like a situation when it comes to sales or something that's marketing or something that's creative, something that's copywriting, right? There are certain portions that you're like, hey, like you just need to be able to do in order to make sure that these things kind of happen in the proper way. All right, so this is the last one I want to do before we kind of get into the big one that I mentioned earlier in terms of not having the budget. And I feel like this is one of the big ones that I probably kind of look at too, right? And that is you are too modest. And I just feel like that is a very, very interesting take. So basically, the way I kind of look at this is that basically, like, if you are in a service business or if you are in a product size business and stuff like that, if you do good work, everyone needs to know, right? And the thing is, it is no good if you're not able to share that with other people. And if you're not able to share that with other people, then it's a hobby still, right? Because the thing is, especially in a social world, we're in a space where people need social proof. They need to be able to know that what you are trying to sell them, other people will actually like. And this is something that, the homie Davis Media taught me, really, really early when we first, got a chance to meet each other and, hang out and stuff like that. He was like, you need, one lucky fool, right? And I felt like when he told me that, I didn't get it at first, but then you kind of prove it time and time again that it is such a necessary piece. It's such a necessary portion to like helping you succeed as a business owner or as an entrepreneur or as a solopreneur or brand or anything, right? That lucky fool is basically that person or that entity that purchases something from you that is willing to take the risk, right? Good, bad, or indifferent, right? Because no matter what, when you have, these conversations, basically like, especially when you're out in the beginning, like you might have the best intentions as a whole, but there's nothing out there that proves your worth. There's nothing out there that proves that you are doing that you will actually be able to deliver on what you say that you're going to deliver on. And if that be, kind of boutique or high-end clothing, right, there's a certain level of quality that you're expected to deliver, right? Or if you are a boutique agency or a full-service marketing agency or things of that nature, like there is a certain level that you're expected to do, right? And of course, there are things that are out there that will people get away with in certain cases. Right? They're not going to call anything out because I don't want to get into that space because I don't want it to feel like that, you're trying to pick on someone or trying to pick on something, right? But that's something that you honestly, really, truly had to, keep in mind and had to pay attention to. So with that being said, when it comes to being too modest, I've actually been cursed out by multiple friends and colleagues that said, you have done so much great work with the agency. And I'm talking about, like, they said this to me, right? Like, you've done so much great work with the agency. Why don't we know? And I'll kind of try to play off the excuse, like, I'm busy, just kind of busy working on these different things with the different clients that we have. But I mean, they're not going to, it is not their obligation to tell people of how dope our stuff is. Because most times, agencies, especially when an agency or, you're kind of in the marketing space, we're in that space where we don't put our mark on every single piece of work that we actually do. Because, like, they essentially, that is what we kind of provide, right? We're like, hey, we charge X amount. And of course, like, this is kind of almost like a white label service. Like, we will be done for you. Right. And if you feel so grateful to say, hey, like, Open Media is the team that actually took care of this for me. Right. Then, so be it. But if not, then, again, we're kind of still us, like, on our side. Right. But I think you also kind of have to take a look at in terms of understanding your audience and understand the people that you're trying to market to, that, yes, when you do show off what you've been able to do and you are your biggest cheerleader, you have to make sure that you can position it in a way that it doesn't alienate the people that you're actually trying to serve, right? So I'm not going to try to show off the work that we do by doing, like, the, what's it called? Totally, like, when you take the stack and you're saying, like, you put it on the arm and stuff like that. Like I'm not going to do that to try to be, boastful of the work that we've done. That's just not. First of all, it's not me. I think it's kind of corny. Like, it is what it is. Teach his own, right? But that's something that you got to understand, that within each situation, what are those things that you are willing to do or what you will be doing in order to try to make sure that people understand and know where you're coming from. You got anything?
Yeah, I do. Before you move into the budgeting the budgeting part of it, I think we kind of already touched on audience, and now I kind of want to ask you, as far as, like, what do you think about, like, making sure you know your competition and actually knowing who's in your space and how do you differentiate yourself from everybody else?
So you're saying, like, how do we identify who is within our space?
No, so, like, okay, so we're talking to the small businesses and brands that are out here.
Right.
We're kind of giving them the framework to be successful in a sense. So I kind of want you to touch on just how knowing who's in your competition will help you, and how important it is to pretty much differentiate yourself from everyone else.
Got you. Okay, I see what you mean.
If you want me to kind of dive into a personal story, I can.
I mean, I want you to share it, but let me answer your question first.
Go ahead.
All right, so basically, what Tony's kind of bringing up here is in terms of like what is going to set yourself aside compared to your competition, right? You are not, unfortunately, the only person that is probably doing what you're doing, and that is such a real thing that we're not like we're in that space. Like, we're not the only agency, right? Of course, like the expectation of what we bring is the same, but we had to make sure that we can do certain things a certain way, right? So I kind of look at it from the way of like, if you're not doing it first, you have to be able to do it the best, right? So it's one of those two situations when it comes to differentiating yourself, right? And it's finding out what that little small piece is in order for you to be able to succeed. So for us, and I'll say for the agency, we set ourselves aside in a couple of different ways, right? Here in Winston, there's a handful of agencies that are around that, a lot of them know each other, especially when you're the new kid on the block, you got to do certain things to kind of like, kind of shake the room, kind of make sure that people understand that you're here and you're here to do certain type of work. But for us, what we were able to do is that we decided that we wanted to focus on essentially micro content, right? Which basically micro content is just the idea of being able to create content from longer forms and then be able to help drive our clients or customers' clients to actually make a decision, right? Because a lot of people are on social media, a lot of people are swiping and scrolling and tweeting and stuff like that, right? But we need to find ways to be able to get those individuals that you identify as a client to say, hey, I want this person to buy from me, to get them to stop and then to go someplace else, right? And most times what we kind of start off with that is leading with, an email or leading with, in order to kind of create more, like more personalized like interactions when it comes to like email campaigns and so forth and newsletters, or to be able to get them onto a website so that they can then hit the Facebook pixel so that we can start hitting them with with more targeted ads and retargeting ads over the course of time, right? And one of the other pieces that I feel like that helps us really stand out is that we actually have the actual real estate, right? We actually have the actual studio space for you to actually do the work that we're trying to get you to do. So if that is a podcast or that is a live stream like this or any of the other, types of, potential content, like we actually have a space for you to actually complete the work where now we don't necessarily say, hey, Mr. Customer or Miss Customer or client, hey, let us help you create this content, but you also need to pay someone else to film it for you, and then also pay someone else to edit it for you, and then you need to do all these different things up front in order for us then to be able to do our work, right? And I feel like it is way more enticing for someone to say, hey, like we want you to do all this, I want you to give you this end product, and this is the way that it needs to take place. But we have our own place. We have our own camera. We'll help you produce. We'll help you write it if you need, or anything of that nature, right? We'll handle all these things for you in-house so that we can actually execute it and get it out there. And I just feel like that's one of the bigger things that over time that we had to learn how to really separate ourselves within the space. And I feel like that is so, so important to be able to really kind of like, literally separate yourself from the pack. Because, and this is the last thing I kind of leave on it before we kind of get into your story, Tony. Something I learned when I'm in school is that basically if you benchmark yourself against your competition, right? If you benchmark yourself against the leaders in this space, and what I mean by benchmarking, that says, hey, if your competition is selling something a certain way, or they're doing certain things a certain way, if that is what they do today, and you say, hey, I want to be able to get there within 3 to 6 months, by the time you get to that point, they are now another 6 months ahead of you, because they're not going to continue to do it the same exact way, right? Yeah, they might use it in order to try to, gain business, because if it kind of springs a well, then of course you want to make sure that you can get the most out of it. But please believe that they're not going to stick to that plan, because they're probably working on something else in order to 10x the possibilities from that. And I feel like if you continue to benchmark yourself against your other competition and things of that nature, you will always be behind, right? And again, if you're not the first, you got to be the best. So story time, right?
So before, actually, I kind of want to dive into that some more.
Okay.
So I guess what's the healthy way to understand your competition? Because it seems like knowing your competition too much can hurt you more than help.
Right. So I guess the way that I would look at it, I kind of put it from our perspective, right? Is that essentially it kind of starts off by asking, right? Identifying what are the key features or key looks that, because at least for an agency style, like everyone has a style, right? So like you can tell what's made on Adobe versus what's made on, say for videos like on Final Cut versus something that's on Canva versus something that's on iMovie. Like if you're truly going to be a student of your space, right? Understanding what the norms are in your industry, and then try to identify who's kind of within that space doing those same things, right? The next one, I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna pull it up for you so people know, right? This is this crazy tool that I found, right? And I just want to make sure that you guys see this. We're here. Google, that's it. Like essentially, using Google to be able to essentially find like keyword search different things based off of how you would describe your business, right? Or what you're looking to essentially to provide, right? So if we said content creation, Winston-Salem, right? We're going to look to see like who pops up within that space. If you know what I'm saying, Tony?
Yeah.
So it's like finding, using these different tools that you have to your advantage in order to be able to say, hey, like, what are these people doing within that space, right? And then seeing if you can actually identify someone or those people and then be able to see what they kind of do. All right, what else you got, brother?
Cool. I'm going to be honest with you. I forgot what the story was about because you just kept going. I was like, okay, I gotta ask that question first. So I kind of yeah.
So in terms of how did you differentiate yourself as being a photographer or videographer? Filmmaker?
Right, got you. Okay, so for me personally, I know there were a lot of people doing it, and I kind of like it was kind of like a trial and error thing. So I know that there was a lot of people that I shot with that had kind of this general same concerns as far as people they work with, which was their vision wasn't captured properly or the way they were trying to express it. Granted, I get it on the creative side, it's hard to deal with clients who don't necessarily know what they want or even have the ability to articulate what they want. So I kind of base my differentiator as far as like storytelling. So I've always kind of been big on like bringing a vision to life, and then like over time I kind of like that's kind of like what I brought it into is storytelling. Right. So just being able to go from one point to another as far as like the beginning to an end. So working with people, being able to capture their vision, bring it to life, and be able to help other people see what they was trying to see through my either photography or videography, whichever one they chose. So there was, funny story, there was a job that I was trying to apply for a while back. Had a Zoom call. This is probably like pre-pandemic. I had a Zoom call with the woman. She was based out of California. She had this ring business. Very dope rings. Like she made them herself. It was just dope. So she was looking for a content creator.
Right.
And she asked me, she was like, I live in LA, so I'm going to be honest with you. I can walk down the street and find 20 different content creators. So I'm gonna give you 30 seconds to tell me like why you are different. And so I mean, I told her I focused on storytelling, and that like I was looking at her social media and like the behind the scenes, and then like she puts a lot of work into what she does, and then like that process needs to be shown.
Right.
And like she bought into it. But of course,
Yeah.
they still didn't get the job, but like that just me knowing like what set me different gave me about 10 more minutes on the phone with her.
Right.
So it still got me somewhere where I wouldn't have gotten if I didn't know it.
Listen, man, it's her loss. Listen, man.
Oh yeah.
Because
I'm not mad.
Because, and now the other thing I would have said, and then after I would have said that, I would have like, and if they were doing it as well, we wouldn't be in the phone.
Right.
You're on the phone with somebody from across the country, right? And it's took you that far. It's taking you that much to figure it out.
Yeah.
And if they're not calling that stuff out, then maybe it's not a good luck for them.
Right.
So it's definitely something that they should be paying attention to.
Yeah. Of course, it's not one of those things you want to say or like on the phone, but it's like, yeah, I'm thinking of all that stuff.
Listen, man, I feel like I'm getting there, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, like not necessarily like not saying like too good to work with certain people, but I just feel like there's certain stuff that you should not have to be able to essentially have to justify, right? Like you can answer certain questions and stuff like that, but like I mean, it's kind of rude to be like, oh well, to be like what makes you different compared to everybody else. Like, because if it's really that big, then why don't you go over there?
Yeah. No, don't get me wrong. I stumbled. I was like, because it's definitely not a question you expect.
Right, exactly.
In a conversation. But then again, I could understand her side. And I think that's why I was able to handle it so well, because I was like, okay, like, I do get it. Like, she could, like, just go to anybody. Like, she kind of has to eliminate some people before she can, like, really start making decisions.
Right. Listen, man.
So
talk about,
that's probably another thing we should. I mean, we don't necessarily have to talk about it, but I think it's also good as a business owner to kind of see things from the consumer standpoint.
Right. I feel like when you get situations like that, it's because they've been burned before. Right. And, the baggage of the previous gig. And I think that needs to be, ultimately needs to be addressed. Because I understand the customer's always right, the client's always right. But, when you hurt, you hurt. No,
they're not.
Right. They're not, man. But what I want to do, Tony, let's take a small break, right? And then we're going to come back and talk about that big win when it comes to that budget, when it comes to marketing. All right, guys. We'll be right back. What's going on, guys? We are back. We are back. We are back. All right. Just kind of reset the room before, we kind of really got get back into everything and stuff like that. Um, Basically, what we were talking about today are some of the biggest mistakes that we see small businesses make when it comes to marketing, and we want to make sure that we kind of address some of these issues. All right, and up to this point so far, we talked about businesses not having an actual plan, right? On in terms of limiting or spreading themselves way too thin when it comes to the different channels that they use. So using one channel versus trying to place all their content on all their channels and stuff of that nature, and how they make that pitfall by primarily not understanding who their audience is, and then understanding the messaging that they need to give that said audience in order to motivate them to actually take action, right? And I think we should definitely have a conversation about like how to identify those people, and then essentially what platform to choose from there. All right. One of the other things that I feel like whoever wrote this article kind of stuck out to me, and they were like, hey, let's drag EA, is that they're saying like you are the owner and the marketer, right? So it's a little bit different from the perspective of like as an actual marketing agency owner, right? Because you got to think about it. The way that we provide a service from marketing and content creation and things of that nature, we create that we create this service that people can actually use, right? But if we provide this service for everyone, then who does it for us, right? And it's like you're not gonna hire another agency, right? Like you're not gonna do it because it's like then your client should just hire that agency. So it's one of those situations that, especially when you are the owner and the marketer, right? You have to be able to essentially separate yourself and treat your business as a client itself, right? And that's something that we've kind of learned, from within, over the last couple of months in terms of being a small boutique shop and essentially positioning ourselves for all of our players, all of our team members to actually be in a position to truly be able to flourish within their space, right? And what I learned for me is that I need to be more of a manager of the agency than the marketer itself, right? And I know I feel like I'm kind of contradicting myself, but it's a situation where it's like, in layman's terms, I probably have to stop working more on the content creating or the marketing for the actual clients and focus it more on the actual marketing of the agency, which will then give us more clients. Well, then it becomes like a huge circle and kind of like loop and stuff of that nature. So that's like one of the big last ones. And sorry, right before we went to break, we also talked about how people are too modest, and they're modest in the sense of that they do these super dope things and they do not share it with anybody. Right, and it goes directly back into what I said previously about being a marketing agency and doing these services for other people, but then not doing it for yourself, right? And we kind of always adapted the idea or the notion that you got to get high on your own supply, right? And I feel like we got to do like the 10 agency commandments, kind of ode to Biggie and stuff like that, because we really truly have to understand like how you should move forward in terms of being to put yourself in the best position possible. All right, so the last thing that we really want to talk about before we left you guys for here today is that we wanted to talk to you guys about budgeting, and how budgeting is such a huge portion that that people consistently overlook, right? And the thing is, like, I think you can sell a product or a service and absolutely do not have a significant amount of money in order to push towards that budget, right? But to say, you can do something absolutely for free, right? Yeah, I mean, you can kind of look at it that way in terms of, spending cash or something like that nature. But, to me, your time is currency as well, right? Your time is actually something that you, most times exchange for money. And the thing is, like, if you are exchanging your time for someone else's attention, like is just as valuable as you having like $1 million and trying to like, put the, the best marketing plan and most advertising budget, to date. Right. So where I really kind of want to talk about this in terms of the marketing side, especially from a small business standpoint, is that where we're at here in Winston, right? They have a thriving startup ecosystem, right? And in this ecosystem, you have people who are working on tech startups, people who are working on agricultural startups, aviation startups, tons of different things, right? Because we are kind of within a sweet spot of like within North Carolina in terms of, our reach on aviation, agriculture, things, and, tobacco, all that good stuff, right? And I can definitely understand, we kind of hear this term be thrown around all the time saying, you should actually create an MVP, right? And a MVP is a minimal viable product, which basically is the most condensed version of what you're trying to sell or a service or product that you're trying to provide, and to be able to make it the very most condensed way possible so that you can essentially start selling today. And one of the biggest pitfalls that we kind of see within that space is that you spend so much time and that effort and your funds in terms of building the product, trying to perfect the product or perfect the service, that when people overlook the whole thing when it comes to the minimal viable product, and there's all the other supportive pieces that go along with running a potential business, right? So making sure that you have small things in order, like your basic accounting in order, or the basic paperwork in order in terms of like legal work or things of that nature. And then also when it comes to actual marketing. So my thing is like, what is the point of you spending time and money and effort in order to build a product or a service if you do that, you have no way of getting the word out? And if you have no way of getting the word out, like, I mean, you're SOL. Like, I want to curse, but we're going to try to hold. You're out of luck, right? And that's one of the biggest things that we see is that, they have something to say is, hey, like, I want to build this huge, prestigious product, but then when it actually comes down to it, like, they want to use marketing tactics that are meant for things that may not necessarily be as high end as what they're trying to sell. And then there's a huge disconnect, which then takes us back to what we talked about before, about understanding your audience, understanding your marketing plan, and different things of that nature. And there's some other pieces about marketing that I want to talk about too, and it's for you, that person that wants to try to shop around on pricing. Listen, I get it. As especially in America, we love to be able to get a good deal, right? But we have to have an understanding of what it means to be able to say, hey, let's create a fair exchange, right? In terms of what you believe something costs and what its truly the value is, and then be able to say, hey, this is what I believe is a fair price in order to make that happen, right? And I just think that's one of those bigger things that, kind of get overlooked on a constant basis. And that's a conversation that we kind of have way too often, in terms of the business, in terms of entrepreneurship and things of that nature.
Why do you think people price shop?
So I think people price shop because, and again, I'm going to speak in terms of being in terms of America, right? Because I feel like that, you have to kind of look at it that way, right? We thrive on the bribe, right? We thrive on the bribe of that 10% off coupon or this or that, right? About how can you get the most out of your dollar, right? Because unfortunately, it's just it's not because the money's not there or something of that nature. But my thing is, like, we all know is that resources are limited, right? And you want to be able to make sure that you are able to still eat at the end of the day or things of that nature in order to, kind of make those things happen. So I feel like that's why one of the main pieces, because like Just the same way that, as a business owner, you need that one lucky fool. There are people who feel like they don't want to be the fool, right? And they want to make sure that, hey, if I can get something that I need in order to help my business thrive, and I still have enough money to be able to save a bit, then why not? Right? Because there's so many options out there, and there's so many potentials out there that people are willing to do whatever it can to be able to get that business, right? And it goes on both sides, right? There are consumers or clients or customers that go out and shop on price and try to say, oh well, I this person over there is giving me this, or that person over there is giving me that. And then you also have service providers or business owners or product owners or product providers that will hear that same thing and say, you know what, the money is more important than the actual principle of the work that we're trying to do, right? And they will lowball themselves, and then essentially what we like to say is mess up the ecosystem, right? They'll kind of put themselves in a position that, I mean, it just kind of messes up everyone else that might come in behind them in terms of the work that actually needs to be done. Because when it comes to pricing, the price is whatever you and that other person agrees it to be. That's what the price is, right? And if in terms of like if you sell based off of like an hourly rate or the cost per widget type of situation, or you do it based by value pricing, that price like essentially determines like your trajectory. Right, and if you have goals to, be a multi-million-dollar company, unless you have the capacity to make, 1 million widgets, for pennies on a dollar in a shorter part of time, and only sell for $1, like then that's what you could do. But unfortunately, 99% of us do not have that capacity, and we had to make sure that we have the mixture between like being able to provide, have the balance of providing the service or product, right, and doing it in a way that is cost effective for everyone, and to be able to provide enough value for everybody. All right, so what we got now, Tony? What we got now?
Yeah, so I mean, you mentioned a couple good points in there. I do kind of want to expand on the marketing side of budget. Like, what is it that you think? Like, do you think that some small business owners are looking at marketing from a consumer standpoint, as far as like that's why they price shop, or what do you feel like is the main reason why they're like, I don't know if I want to spend that money, even though it will help me grow?
So I think it's because marketing is an art and a science, right? And I believe that when it comes to marketing, especially from like on a B2B side, right? So like we're trying to sell to another business, I think that becomes an issue or a concern, is because it is hard for people to quantify what a return on investment is, right? Because primarily they don't know who their audience is. They don't know their message. There's certain pieces that are missing that they don't have, that then kind of like messes people up, right? And I think people really kind of get to that space because they don't understand, right? And if they don't understand what those things are, then how can they know if they're going to get the best? The only thing they really have to go on is like, who can give me what I want for the cheapest rate, right? Because for instance, like you have to understand, like, hey, like what's the value of, in terms of like your time, your opportunity cost, right? Like what would you rather, in a scenario, right? Would you rather have a marketing plan or someone who commits something and say, hey, I could do this for $100 a month, right? And I'm saying, again, this is the US, right? I can do, A through Z for $100 a month, right? Like, would you believe that they'll be able to commit that stuff for the time that you're paying them? Or would you feel like, hey, like, there's something, they might not understand what they're doing because they can't price this in a way that just says like, hey, okay, that makes sense. It sounds too good to be true. So what is going to be sacrificed because of the quality, right? And then it's one of those situations like, hey, like you found the cheapest price, but then the quality's not there like you quite want it. And then now you say, hey, like, this is not where I really want it. And now you got to go out and do it again and find someone who's, pays you a little bit more. And, I feel like, that's one of those situations that people have to take a look at when it comes to like their marketing in terms of to who they may get involved with, right? If you need a freelancer versus an agency. And even when you have someone who is a freelancer, being able to understand the effort that it takes for actually to them to do the actual work that you think is so easy. Because I feel like people look down on stuff that looks actually fun. Does that make sense? Like I feel like creative work is not necessarily, you hear people like joke about stuff like that all the time. Like, oh, as a creative, like that's not a real job. You know what I mean? Because you're not churning something, you're not moving something, you're not lifting something. Like you're using your brain all the time, and a skill that you may have acquired over time.
So do you feel like small business, well, maybe not even just small business owners, do you feel like businesses and brands kind of treat marketing as an expense?
I think, yeah, most definitely. Right. And I think primarily, yes. I mean, in the technical terms, in terms of looking at in terms of accounting, like, yes, marketing is, marketing expense, right? I get it from the more literal sense. Right. But like the way that I would look at it is like, or try to spin it is like marketing should not be looked at as taxes. If that makes sense. Like taxes are necessary, and we have to do what we need to do to we have to pay taxes, right? It is a necessity in order for us to continue to live uninterrupted, right? So I look at it as the same way, right? Is that you shouldn't treat your marketing budget or your marketing dollars as something that's like, hey, this is just a necessity for me to actually be able to continue, rather than it almost kind of looking like investment capital, something that you're investing inside your business in order to then get a return on that, right? And if that be equity in terms of like when I mention equity, that means that when you are doing certain projects, in terms of your marketing, are you doing it in order to get recognized a little bit more for your brand? Are you using it to essentially build awareness? Like, what are you trying to exchange or provide this information for, to exchange to warm them up to do something else? And I think that's what, you do that, or are you doing it to actually get someone to make a decision of like, hey, like, buy this product from me or buy this service from me. And that's just one of like the biggest things I would definitely probably say is something. I think I'm like blurry a little bit. I don't know what happened, man. All right. Sorry, a little autofocus. All right. So basically that's definitely one of like the biggest situations that I would say, when it comes to like how people treat it as like an expense rather than an actual investment. Like, stop treating your marketing budget like it's like tax dollars. Like, it's just like you just do it because you believe it's necessary. Like, that's just not how life works. And that's not how like it should work, because that is something that you know is necessary in order for you to thrive. What's going on? So I'm looking at the chat, man. So what's going on? Because we're about to wrap up. I want to see if there's any questions in the chat. See if there's any questions in the chat. What's going on, guys? Let's look at the YouTube side. What's a few of you guys on there? What's going on? All right. So, Tony, I think we're good for today. All right. So let's hit up on one. Let's get up on one real fast. All right. So, guys, I want to thank you guys for actually taking the time out to come with us here today. Again, my name is EA Green. I'm the CEO and owner of the Open Media Agency, a full service marketing agency focused on virtual events, micro content, and lead generation. Again, what we talked about here today was about the biggest pitfalls or the biggest mistakes that we see small businesses make when it comes to marketing. All right, so if you like things like this or any other type of marketing subject, we'll be back here every single Wednesday from 5. Basically, from 5 to, try to do it for an hour and a half, 2 hours to try to keep it, very succinct and to the point, right? But if you have any topics that you want to cover, or if you have different things of that nature, you can basically reach out to us on every single platform, right? So you can look here on the bottom here. I'm actually going to show you right down there, right? You can either go to our Facebook at openmedia.agency or our Instagram at openmedia.agency. Or you have our YouTube and we have our Twitter. And then you can go to openmediaagency.com if you want to, learn a little bit more about, what we do as a business and something that you want to learn how we can potentially help you for a project or your business or your brand. All right, guys. So what we're going to do is going to take a moment. Man, I really love the Pistol Pack, man. I feel like I'm giving T-Pain some free pub, but the value that this provides for us, especially in stream, is just super dope. So we're gonna take a moment. We're gonna kind of like vibe out for a bit on the Pistol Pack, and we will catch you guys on the other side. Deuces.